Hi, everybody, and welcome to Friday Live at 5. This is Peter McLaughlin, and glad to have you joining. Hopefully, there's a lot of you joining today. Regulars, people that have been here before, new people, perhaps. Standard disclaimer, we're going to be talking about past life regression today and how to clear blocks. So a lot of people, when they want to do a past life regression, will run into some kind of a block. Now, a block could be like you just see all black, or some other version of nothing really happening, or very little seemingly happens. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And back to the disclaimer. I am a life coach and a hypnotherapist. I am not a psychologist. I'm not a doctor. So please take everything I say with a grain of salt. If you have any big issues in your life, psychological or physical, please check with your local medical and psychological personnel. And if you have questions, please feel free to ask the questions. It really is what drives the broadcast and makes it way more interesting than if it's just a monologue. If you have statements that you want to make, things that have occurred to you that are within this realm, please feel free to make those statements. And if you have suggestions for future broadcasts, please feel free to make those suggestions. I always find that one of the tricky parts of doing this work is coming up with topics on a weekly basis that people are going to find interesting. So, without further ado, let's jump into what is a past life regression block. And when I say past life regression block, I'm also referring to, I guess, what I would call a spiritual block. So if you wanted to meet, say, with your spirit guide, or if you wanted to meet with your higher self, if you wanted to meet with your spirit council, your soul group, view the Akashic records, and you weren't able to do so, I would call that like a spiritual block, much in the same way that we're referring to these past life regression blocks. So these things all kind of cross over and intertwine. And actually, the solutions that I will be discussing about how to overcome these blocks will apply to both spiritual blocks and past life regression blocks. So I was mentioning before that a block is when a person goes into hypnosis. I'm talking about hypnosis because that's the tool I use. Other people use different kinds of tools. So you could use meditation, you could use probably different kinds of compounds, like ayahuasca and other kinds of psychoactive drugs to do this. And when the person goes with the intention of going into a past life, for example, as I mentioned before, it may be the block is all they see is black. Nothing else. Everything just seems like an absolute blank. And I have to say that in the 15 years? 15, 17 years? 14, this is my 15th year. Okay. In the 15 years I've been practicing this work, for a long time, 5, 6, 7 years, this was kind of vexing to me. When I would try to take somebody occasionally, because most people would go, but occasionally would take somebody into past life and they couldn't get there. And over time, I had to really kind of dig into this and learn through trial and error about why a person's having the block. And once I understood why there was this block, I could understand how to help them overcome it. So, the other thing I wanted to talk about is the intersection of imagination and past life regression. So one of the ways that a person could be blocked is it could be a form of almost what you would call disbelief. In other words, they are having some kind of an experience, but they discount it, they almost push it out of the way and say something to the effect of, well, I'm just making that up. That's just my imagination. And so this is a really important aspect to kind of step over, if you will, because all of us in our culture are socialized to doubt ourselves and essentially to reject our imaginations. And we are taught essentially that imagination doesn't really mean anything, that it's this kind of, in a certain way of looking at it, that it's almost like this useless aspect of humans. So we say things like, it's just a dream. It's all in your head. And the big one, which is, it's only your imagination. Now, if that isn't sort of denigrating a person's imagination, I don't know what it is. And it's yet such a ubiquitous comment, at least in the English-speaking world, it's only your imagination. So in other words, so ignore it, don't pay any attention to it. So we've all kind of grown up with this filter through which we have these experiences that is already largely kind of pushing away, discounting, it's only your imagination, pushing that off to the side. And so when a person has an experience and it doesn't feel like, oh my God, I'm really there, it's like watching a movie or whatever, even then it can happen, they can tend to say, well, I just made that all up in my head. And I get these comments from time to time on my YouTube channel, if you haven't subscribed, BlueSky Hypnosis, with these self-directed past life regression and spiritual regression tracks that I have on there. And people will say, oh my God, I had this most amazing experience, but I don't know if I was just making it up. I think one of the most important things to do when you want to have a past life regression experience is just take all that doubt. And a lot of it can center around your imagination and just put it off to the side. So in the theater, and I used to be an actor, they call this the suspension of disbelief. That also applies to watching films. You know, when you sit down in a movie theater to watch a movie, you know you're in a movie theater. You know it's a two-dimensional image. But what you're really hoping is that the movie will sort of sweep you and carry you away. It'll stir up your emotions where maybe you get scared and you get angry and you feel sad and you feel hopeful. Movies evoke all of these feelings in us just like the stage does. But in order for it to work as an audience member, you have to essentially take on that concept as exemplified by the phrase, the suspension of disbelief. You have to suspend that critical thinking and allow it just to be what it wants to be. If you do that, and if it's a really good play or a really good movie, then you can be drawn into it and sort of carried away by it. Now, the other thing I would say about imagination is that, it took me a long time to come to this too, is that like watching a movie, when your emotions are stirred up and you're sad and you start crying based on what's happening on the screen, if you get angry based upon what's happening on the screen, if you get frightened based upon what's happening on the screen, you are having real responses to what we call a fictional presentation, a two-dimensional fictional presentation, and you're having real responses to that. And if we take this one step further and we say, if I imagine lifting weights for a month and I increase the size of my muscles and I increase my muscle strength, how am I able to create real results, muscle strength and size, by something that's just imagination or only imagination? And I would say your imagination has to be real in order to produce something real. That reality isn't just necessarily what occurs on this tiny little planet in a universe so large we can't understand it, but there are other realms of reality. And imagination is the most powerful realm of reality because everything in your life starts as something you imagined first. But you've been taught to push it away through phrases like it's only your imagination, it's all in your head, it's just a dream. And I think it's really important that we begin to reclaim what I'm calling our greatest power. And at a minimum, which could help you clear a block, past life regression block, choose that suspension of disbelief. In other words, put the critical thinking off to the side with the caveat, with the understanding that after you have this experience, after the movie's over, after you do the regression, then you can decide what it all means to you. But if from the get-go, you're saying, is that really happening? Did I just make that up? Is that all in my head? You can shut it down right there. So, kind of my first tip, if you will, and the reason I wrote this thing about the intersection of imagination and past life regression, is to suspend your disbelief when you're doing this. And I'll talk later today in this broadcast about exactly how you can do that. And it took me more years to figure out exactly how to do that. So what I want to do is jump into comments and questions here. I'm so happy to see these coming in, you guys. It's awesome. And we'll start tackling those. All right. So JW Fat, good to see you here. Mr. Mind Meditation, Marie Hogan, great to see you guys here. Mikey Lane, first broadcast you're able to attend. Glad to have you here. Top it all. Yes, I saw a past life that I wasn't ready for, and now you, oh, I'm gonna just put it up on the screen. Why don't I do that? Yes, I saw a past life that I wasn't ready for, and now using your past life regression hypnosis video, I go down the stairs, and all I see is black now. Okay. So that is fairly common, and what I'm gonna do is sort of jump ahead into the different things that I had listed. So I had talked about, in the bullet points, common reasons for a block. So the two most common reasons I have ever run across is kind of to follow up on what I was just saying before about imagination, is disbelief, right? So some version of disbelief pulls the person out of it. Oh, it's just my imagination. I don't think that's what that one is for you. I think it's the next one that I want to say, which is the most common, and that is fear. It's a fear block. So the job of your subconscious mind is to protect you. And it may be that there is something in that past life that is absolutely either horrifying, scary, terrifying, use whatever word you want, but the subconscious mind is attempting to suppress the memory of that experience, of that, not wanting that memory to come back to you. And it thinks it's protecting you by doing that. Now, a lot of people might say, well, maybe it is protecting you by doing that. What happens if this heinous thing that happened in the past comes back into my mind, something either I did or something that happened to me? Won't I be like totally upset for the rest of my life? That's not my experience. And furthermore, I would say that suppressing toxic material in your subconscious mind is never a good idea. That eventually it will leak, it'll find ways of leaking out. It may come out as an anxiety attack. It may come out as anger and rage. It may come out as overeating. It may come out as a drug addiction. It may come out as lower back pain. You get the idea. Holding toxin, poison, emotional, energetic, whatever you want to call it, deep in your subconscious mind, I think is a really bad idea. And my practice, my one-on-one practice, and to a very large extent, my YouTube channel, is devoted to helping people uncover that material so that they can kind of bring it into the light of consciousness, flush it out, heal it. So my guess, Barbershopper Doll, is that the reason you're seeing all black is because your subconscious mind is attempting to protect you. Now, the next thing I will say, and maybe you can comment down below if you want, is sometimes people are expecting to see when they're doing a past life regression. They see all black and they think nothing's happening, but they'll feel sometimes, I'm not saying you are, but sometimes these intense emotions welling up inside of them, like intense sadness or intense rage and anger. Or they might smell something, like the smell of roses or the smell of gunpowder. Or they might feel like somebody's tapping them on the shoulder. Now, a person on this plane is not tapping them on the shoulder, but that's kind of what they're feeling. Or they might feel an intense pain somewhere. And because, again, in this culture, which is extremely visual, they are expecting to see something, but one of their other senses is actually feeding them information, is feeding them data. But because they're so fixated on seeing it, it's almost like they're ignoring this other part of them. And they might say later, yeah, I just saw all black. Well, anything else you notice? Yeah, I was like crying. Well, why were you crying? I have no idea. And what I want to say is, if you accept whatever's coming, in whatever way it's coming. So if it's coming as emotions, you go deeper into those emotions. And those emotions can sometimes lead you almost like through a tunnel where everything kind of opens up and then you can see things. Then you can hear things with your inner ears. Then your other senses kind of open up. But if you shut down the first things that are happening, like, well, I guess nothing's happening. And I may be crying, but I don't know why that is, so I'm just going to shut it down. then the whole thing collapses. So, and I'll probably repeat this a couple times because I think it's really, really important. When you do past life regression, I talked about the suspension of disbelief, just like when you go to watch a movie, right? Just let that off to the side. Use your critical reasoning skills later. That's fine to use, but not while it's happening. And then accept whatever is coming to you in whatever way it's coming. If it's something you don't want to see it. If you're hearing something with your inner ear, or you're feeling something emotionally, go deeper into that. Accept whatever's coming in whatever way it's coming. If you see things as a cartoon, go with it. Well, how can that be? A cartoon must be a figment of my imagination. A past life wouldn't be a cartoon. This happened once with a client. I will never forget it. So we went to client's spirit guide. Is the origin of your problem in a past lifetime? Yes. Does the guide give you permission to go into the past lifetime? Yes. We go into the past lifetime. She's like, everything's a cartoon. So I said, just go with it. We're just going to accept what's coming. Just go with it. So we go through the past life, all cartoon. We come back to the spirit guide, and I have the client ask the guide, why was I shown my past life entirely as a cartoon? Answer immediately was, because to show it to you in any more realistic form would have been too traumatic. That's pretty cool. And a really powerful lesson from my perspective, to accept whatever is coming. Don't reject it. Don't push it away while it's occurring. You know, halfway through a novel, halfway through a stage play, halfway through a film, you might have no clue of what's going on. It may make no sense to you, but that may be part of the arc of the story to have a greater emotional impact. And that later, by the end of the book, by the end of the film, by the end of the stage play, it all comes back together. So, Barbershopper Doll, I will also, one of my bullet points on here is how to overcome that block. So we're kind of taking this a little slower, and I have some other ideas for you, but these are the first ones that I wanted to say. Disbelief is a possibility. More likely, it's fear. Other possibility is that maybe you're ignoring other things that are coming up. I'm not saying you are, but you might be. Emotions, things you're hearing inside your head, things you might be smelling, or things that you might kinesthetically be feeling, almost like your hand is going down a rail, or you can feel, a wall with your hand, or it feels cold or it feels hot. If that's the case, we want you to be able to accept those things as they're coming, because that can then open it up more for you. All right, let's see what else we've got here. Shout out to Nina Ruiz. Good vibes to you too, Nina. Doreen Grennan. Hello, Doreen. Glad you're here too. Sonia Mayer. Hello, Sonia. Here we go with Nicole P. Hi, everyone. I bet this disbelief has the same effect on the pendulum. That is an excellent, excellent statement. I think it can. I really do. I think ideally with the pendulum, you want to just kind of almost just like the way you watch a movie, right? Ideally you're putting that critical aspect of your mind off to the side. So the rest of you can come forward and be moved or not moved by artwork. Could be a concert, could be a movie or stage play or what have you. You want that part of you to be affected by it. And if you sit down and go, yeah, those are actors, that's stage lighting, those are props, there's the curtain, blah, 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 it's all fake, you're gonna kind of ruin your experience. And I think you're right that with a pendulum, you wanna kind of step out of it as well. Just hold the pendulum, look at it, ask the question, and let it be what it wants to be. If you start thinking, am I controlling this? Can I control it if I want to? Is this real? Is it all my imagination? You kind of take yourself out of it, right? Just the way you can take yourself out of great art by getting into that critical part while it's happening. You want to just allow it to unfold. So good point. Thanks for raising that. Tommy T, actor. Wow. Yeah, 10 years in New York City. A lot of stage and some soap operas. Very small parts in soap operas. They called them under fives. It stood for under 5 lines, because if you had 6 lines or more, they had to pay you a lot more money. So it was extra, under 5, day player, contract player. And I pretty much always did under 5s. pretty much always law enforcement, SWAT team, FBI, bodyguard, prison guard, process server. You get the idea. I used to describe it as like a talking plant. Like the plant over in the corner would march forward, say 4 or 5 lines, and then go back into the corner. All right. JW Fat. She says, can fear become a block? And if so, how can I get over the fear? Absolutely. I would say that fear is the #1 block. You may have tuned in a little bit later, but I was talking about how the job of your subconscious mind is to protect you. And one of the things it can attempt to protect you from is old, painful material, memories from the past. That could be from earlier in this life. It could also be from a past lifetime. And so it can tend to suppress that information. And suppressed negative material is kind of like a poison or a toxin. And it can affect you in a variety of ways. It can affect your physical health. It can create different kinds of pain in your body. It can cause you to overeat. It can cause you to drink. It can cause you to use drugs, and you don't even know why. It can cause anxiety and panic attacks. It can cause fear of different things. I worked with a client today who had, I think past tense is probably correct, although I can't verify that until I talk to her again, a fear of a particular kind of animal, because that animal came after her at some point. And it's not a terribly threatening animal, but she was really scared by it. And as we dug deeper into her case today, we found out that she was killed by a similar kind of animal, that it's not the same animal, but it's similar in a past lifetime. And so when she had her encounter with this other animal in this life, it basically triggered the old memory, and it applied all the trauma that happened to her in a past lifetime onto what happened in this lifetime. And she's been walking around afraid of this kind of animal for her whole life. And so what we needed to do was we needed to clear that deeper fear of when she was killed in a past lifetime by that animal. Once we did that, then we came and cleared what happened to her in this lifetime. That wasn't the root cause, but we wanted to do that anyway. And as I say, that was just today. So it's my suspicion that the next time she sees this particular animal, she's not going to have the same response. Because the subconscious mind, which had been suppressing what had happened in the past lifetime, we were able to dig that up, bring it to the surface, bring it into the light of consciousness, and heal it. So that is one way to answer your question. And the other way, and this would be for you too, Barbershopper Doll, and it sounds ludicrously simple. And it took me years to figure this out. But, okay, this is how simple it is. If you're having a block going into a past lifetime, meeting with your spirit guide, sometimes even if the pendulum isn't working for you, what you can do is this. Just close your eyes and you just say to yourself 3 times, I hereby suspend all of my disbelief and all of my fear for the next, and then fill in an amount of time. So if you're doing something that's pretty short, 20 minutes. If it's something longer, like a 1-hour past life regression track, say for the next 60 minutes. I hereby suspend all of my disbelief and all of my fear for the next 60 minutes. Say that 3 times. And then see if that clears the block for you. It's crazy how often that clears the block. It even happens, as I said, with a pendulum. So I'll have a client using the pendulum, and let's say we're getting answers. We're getting yes to this answer, we're getting yes to that answer, we're getting no to this answer. Then we ask another question, and it's stock still. It doesn't move at all. Now, it had been moving right up until that point. Why isn't it moving for this one question? Because the subconscious mind gets to that question and is like, oh, we got to keep that suppressed. And so I'll say to the client, okay, close your eyes if you're willing. Say, I hereby suspend, not I throw away, not I get rid, I just suspend it. I'm just setting it aside for this short period of time. I hereby suspend all of my disbelief and all of my fear for the next 10 minutes. I have them say that 3 times. They go back to the pendulum. It works every time. Now, I can't guarantee that that's going to work for everybody all around the world all the time. I have no way of knowing that. I'm just saying I have had what seems like ridiculous amounts of success with something that seems so simple. And it took me a long time to get there. A long time to figure that out, even though it's super, super simple. Maybe that's why it was so hard to figure it out. But that can really, really work for you. All right, let's see what else we have here. Thanks, JW. Good luck to you. Claudia Angel. Claudia says, hello, Claudia. I need to think my 2 hours at the gym is only 20 minutes. I need to learn that imagination. Need help with that, please. Okay, so I'm going to assume, and 2 hours is a long time at the gym. You know, why are you training for 2 hours? Are you a professional athlete? Are you on a weight loss program? Are you wanting to do like an Iron Woman competition? You know, what's going on there? And it kind of sounds like you don't like it. That time is painful to you. It's boring. It's tedious. You're looking at the clock. You're wanting time to pass. What I would think about immediately is what neurolinguistic program calls chunking up. And what that means is, it sounds like when you're in the gym, you're just there in misery, right? But you must be in the gym for a reason. So let's say you're in the gym because you want to lose weight. Okay, so chunking up comes up to the next reason why you're there. So I'm here in this place of tedium, but I'm there because I want to lose weight. Okay, great. Why do you want to lose weight? Well, I want to lose weight because I feel really good in my clothes when I lose 20 pounds. Okay, that's a level higher. You feel really great when you're in those clothes. Well, what is it that you're able to do when you feel really great in those clothes that you can't do when you're not feeling so good in those clothes? Well, I'm more outgoing. I can be out with my friends, or I can go get this job I've always wanted to do, or I can go stand up on a stage and present to people and pursue my dream. Okay, now we're getting closer to the real motivating factor of why you're in the gym in the first place. So if I were working with you, I would want to link those two things together. And this is all, I know I'm just making this up, but link together that being able to pursue your dreams by standing up on a stage and having people clap for you or whatever it is, and letting go of your old crappy job that you don't like. I would want to link those together so that every time you're in the gym, you feel this sense of empowerment. You feel this sense of euphoria that every weight you lift, every moment you spend on the treadmill, you're getting closer and closer and closer to this really cherished goal, right? That's how I would approach this one, is I would help reframe in the mind what being in the gym actually means, from being painful and tedious to being exhilarating and empowering. And I think once that happens, you might attack the whole thing in a totally different way. And once you do that, the time really does pass faster. You know, when you're sitting in a high school class and you're learning about something that you couldn't care less about, it takes forever. When you're in a class and you're totally turned on by the material, it goes by in an instant. You know, some really dry, dull economics book versus a novel that's just crackling along. So that's what I would suggest. That's the first thing anyway that comes into my mind. And thank you for asking the question. Good to see you here. Scrolling down. Oh, here, Nicole. Nicole has a great suggestion for you, Claudia. She's saying, Claudia, under his playlist, he has a video to listen to while you actually work out. It's music and messages. It's great. So yeah, you can actually maximize that time while you're working out, right? It's got messages primarily about weight loss and about motivation. I hadn't even thought about that. So thank you so much, Nicole, for suggesting that. But that's definitely something that you can do, Claudia. And if you do it, let us know what you think. One of the tracks I'm thinking in specifically is one where it's a dual audio. So you have one set of hypnotic suggestions coming into your left ear and a different set of suggestions coming into your right ear. So it's kind of like supercharging you while you're working out. while you're, treadmill or the elliptical machine or something like that. I mean, you can do other things too, but that's, those kind of cardio things probably work really well with this. So here's Mr. Mind Meditation talking about fear is a major block. To get over it is to just dive in to what makes you fear. So what he's talking about is confronting the fear. And I totally agree, in certain circumstances that makes a lot of sense. What I like to do is to control those circumstances. So today, when I was working with that client who had a fear of this really scary animal, in a controlled setting in her mind, when she was ready, and I had verified that, I had her and this animal come face to face. So that's an example of what Mr. Mind is saying about actually confronting your fear. The caveat for me is doing it when you're ready to do it in a controlled environment. So for those of you that don't know, in addition to being an actor for 10 years, I was also a volunteer firefighter and EMT for a long time, both in Connecticut and in New York State. And we have to do things that are really scary, like going into a building that's on fire. And nobody, talk about confronting your fear, also walking out on stage too. No one is going to, no fire department in the country is going to take a recruit, put them in turnout gear, put the air pack on them, and put the breathing apparatus on their mouth, the regulator, and just push them into a building that's on fire. They're only going to do that when they've built you up, when they've taught you about what turnout gear is and how to put it on and how to move in it, how to use an air pack, and how to maneuver in the air pack, how to maneuver in an environment where you can't see literally your hand in front of your face because it's so black with smoke, how to crawl along the ground, the characteristics of fire, the characteristics of heat, how to work with each other. They're going to teach you all of these things, not just cognitively, but they're going to give you the actual physical experience in controlled environments. Going through a maze where everything's dark or blacked out and you have to feel your way around, for example. As I said, having the turnout gear and the air pack on, we had to play basketball with all of that on. All of these things help build you up and get you to the point that when it's time to go into a working structure fire for real, you're ready to go in. I mean, you even go into something called a smokehouse where they're simulating a fire. They're burning material in this building and it fills the building with smoke. And it's hot in there and you can't see anything. But that's another evolution, another step on the training, so that when there really is a working structure fire and you need to go in there, you're going to be scared, but you're going to feel like you're prepared and ready for it. So that's a long-winded way, which is my way, of saying that I totally agree with you, Mr. Mind Meditation. My caveat is, and maybe it is yours too, to just make sure that we're doing this in a controlled environment to make it much more likely that the person's going to be successful. That's exactly what I did today in that case with the fear of the animal. Okay. Let's see. Samantha Briley is saying, Claudia, it's been very helpful for me. You got this. Just keep using it. I can totally tell the nights I use it and the nights I don't. So Samantha, thanks for that. She's talking about, I think, about that same track as well. So, for those of you who don't know, on the YouTube channel, BlueSky Hypnosis, please subscribe. There's my little button if you haven't. There's all kinds of content that can, much of it will simulate an actual hypnosis session. There's a lot of content on there for weight loss. There's stuff for exercise and motivation. There's stuff for achieving wealth, confidence, public speaking, quitting alcohol, quitting smoking, past life regression, meeting your spirit guide. I'm working on one now about the Akashic record. There's healing karmic relationships. There's helping for relationships. There's all kinds of stuff on there, is the long and short, that might be able to help you on your path in your life. Okay, so thanks for that, Samantha. Doreen is saying she has experienced 3 different past life regressions over the years. And Doreen, if you want to say below what your experience has been, was there any emotion involved in these regressions? Did you do these regressions with a hypnotist? Did you do them on your own? Did you do them with an audio track of some kind? Did you notice any changes in your life as a result of doing them? That would be really helpful if that's something you would like to comment on. Yeah, Camilla, absolutely. Don't you think the person has to be willing to go there? Don't I think the person has to be willing to go to a past life regression? Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. So when I'm working with somebody one-on-one, we're generally going through their spirit guide. We're confirming with the spirit guide that the origin of their problem exists in a past life. Then we're having, and this a client is asking guide. Then I have the client ask the guide, do I have your permission, guide, to go into this past lifetime? Because if it's not good for them, guide will say no. Once we get the guide's permission, assuming we get it, I then ask the client, are you willing to go? And almost all the time the client is ready, they want to go. But every so often they say no. And often the people who say no will say something like, yeah, I'm saying no, but I don't even know why I don't want to go. I'm just scared. And then we work on that fear. We're back with the guide. Okay, what does client need in order to successfully return to that past life? And it might be that they need courage. So we might have to take them to another time when they had a lot of courage, have them infused with that courage, and then bring them back to the jumping off point and say, are you willing to go now? Almost always they are. Or sometimes we send someone with them. Spirit guide goes with them, or a beloved animal goes with them, or an angel goes with them, or they could go in third person, not in first person. So these are other ways, I suppose, of overcoming an overt block where the person's saying, I really don't want to go. But yes, you're 100% right, Camilla. The person has to want to go for it to be successful. Here is Nicole, and she is saying, do you have experience with crystals, like healing crystals? Could this help with blocks? I am not an expert with crystals at all. I believe in their healing power. My understanding is that they hold energy, they hold frequency. That's why the old radios use crystals in them, because it's almost like an early memory chip. I think I had one client, now that I'm thinking about it, who needed to hold on to a crystal in order to do the past life regression. I mean, in all these years, it's just that one person, but it actually helped her. And I think it was something like black tourmaline or something, I want to say, that it helped her with the fear and allowed her to go into the past lifetime. So it definitely has utility. I just personally don't use them that much, and I don't know that much about it. The other ways that I have for clearing blocks and for making it easier for somebody who's scared to go into a past lifetime once their guide has said you can go in, those have been quite effective, and they seem to, I just feel like I come up with more methods over time. There's another one that I would like to share with you as well, and that is, this works for Pendulum. It also works for going into a past life. I tend to use this one more with a pendulum as a first step if the pendulum isn't working for someone, but it's a thymus tap. So these 3 fingers, and then lightly tapping the breastbone, which is where your thymus is located, and you just tap it, I don't know, 15, 10, 20 times, something like that, and then you go right back to the pendulum. Oftentimes that will clear a block that a person has to the pendulum working or not working for them. It tends to settle the emotions, and when the emotions get settled, it's like everything gets clear again, and the pendulum starts to work. I've seen that work many, 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 many times. So that's another one that you can add onto the list. All right, let's see what else we have here. Okay, so JW Fat is saying to Mr. Mind Meditation, I just don't know how to do that. I believe that's confronting the fear. I try so hard, I can't see or hear anything. All right, well, this brings up a couple of interesting points. Another possible block is trying too hard. I think we've all had the experience of trying to go to sleep at night and it's not happening. And you get more and more frustrated and you're like pounding the bed and flipping over and turning the pillow and I gotta go to sleep. You're trying hard to go to sleep. It makes it harder to go to sleep. Going to sleep is all about allowing. It's all about letting go. It's about surrendering control. And ultimately, that's what going into a past life regression is too. It's about letting go. It's about surrendering control, allowing whatever is coming, in whatever way it's coming, to just be. And so if you try really, 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 really hard to go into a past life, it's like trying really, really hard to go to sleep. It's not going to work. So that might be one of the issues that you have, JW. That could easily be what's going on. And then the other one is to consider what I said before about that ridiculously simple repeat 3 times to yourself before you attempt the past life regression. I hereby suspend all of my fear for the next 60 minutes. Now you could add in the word disbelief, but I think in your case it sounds like fear. So if I were you, I would just say hereby suspend all of my fear for the next 60 minutes. You could even use the pendulum and say to the pendulum, if I suspend my fear for 60 minutes, will I be able to go into the past life? Let's say you get a no. You can keep using the pendulum to find out what the block is. You could say, do I have any spiritual entities attached to me? That could be a block to going into a past lifetime, right? The entities might not want you to go into a past lifetime because they may feel like their home, your body, your being, they're going to get evicted if you start walking down this spiritual path. So that pendulum can be enormously powerful, and you can definitely use it to find out, do I have any blocks? So when I was working with that client today, I had her using the pendulum, and one of the questions I had her ask was, if I choose to do so, may I meet with my spirit guide today? I gotta know. Is there someone else I'm supposed to meet with first? All right, so we just found out there's a block there. Can I meet with my guide? No, we got an answer no. So if we had just gone in to meet the guide, it wouldn't have happened. Is there someone else you're supposed to meet first before you meet the guide? Yes. Is that person somebody you knew in this lifetime? Yes. Was it a relative? Yes. Was it your grandmother? No. Was it your father? Yes. So we know before we even try that in order for her to meet her guide, she has to meet with her deceased father first. Once she does that, coast is clear. But we were able to use the pendulum at the front end. It's almost like getting a map before you just get in your car and drive somewhere. And you see where you're going and what turns and roads you need to take. It makes everything so much easier. So that pendulum, and I think I said something on here about how can a pendulum clear a block? Yeah. You can use it at the front end to determine if there are going to be any blocks, and if so, what they are and what you need to do to clear them. And if you encounter a block like you have, JW, you can use the pendulum to figure out, is this block based on disbelief? Is it based on fear? Is it based on a spiritual entity that's attached to me? Is it because I'm trying too hard? Is it because I'm not ready? Is it because it's not in my highest and best interest? You can start walking down all of those paths to determine what actually this block is, because then you can put your attention on clearing the block. Once the block is cleared, you can go back, do the past life regression successfully. So, hope that helps. This is let's see, a mirror kitty. In my dreams, I usually see places very advanced, as if I'm on another planet. Is this related to a past life? Well, it's definitely not a past life on this planet. That's clear, right? Not a conventional. So a conventional past life, if you will, would be you go back to the American Civil War. You go back to the Roman Empire. You go back to being in a cave or something like that. If you go to another planet, in conventional parlance, we wouldn't call that a past life regression, although in a strict sense, I suppose it could be, right? So if you previously lived a lifetime on another planet, which people do, then I think in a strict sense, you could think of it that way. That's super cool. I have had people do that before. I've had them go to other planets that they've lived on. So yeah, that's awesome. And I guess as I talked my way through that, I think you technically could call that a past life regression. So thank you. Hello, G Hill. Good to see you. Oh yeah, here's Nicole. Nicole is suggesting to JW to try a pendulum. Great minds think alike. Oh, here we go. Here is 30-Day Jeff. Can you describe how a session would work doing it via the internet? Yeah, absolutely. So this is my 15th year doing this work. I've been doing remote sessions, I would say, for maybe 4 or 5 years. So long before the events of last year caused everybody to have to shut down. Once that happened, all of my sessions have been remote. The way I do these, 90% of the time is over Zoom. So, it's kind of like this, only I can see you and we can talk to each other. And in my opinion, there's absolutely no degradation over doing it live and in person. It's just as effective doing it through this manner as it is in person. Maybe 10% of the time, just based upon client preference, I will do sessions over the phone. I don't like that as much because I can't see the face, and I feel like it's important for me to see the face, but I can do that. So if there are people that only want to do that, I can do that. And the session basically unfolds the same way it would if you came into my office. We spend some time talking, and I'm not talking about a first session now, I'm talking about a subsequent session. So we've already built kind of a foundation or a container. I already understand you pretty well and your history and your dream life and the things that have been plaguing you and the traumas you've had in your life and whatnot. And so if you come in for, say, a third session or a second session or whatever, we're going to kind of level set and find out where you are since the last session. Have you been using the audios that I wanted you to use? Are you noticing any changes in your life that are either better or worse? And then we've got kind of a hit list of things that we're working on clearing and fixing, symptoms that you're dealing with. So we talk through all of that. Once we have that understanding, then we usually go in, meet your spirit guide, and then begin doing the deeper work. So I like to do largely speaking, but not exclusively, I like to do the real deep stuff when we're one-on-one. And then I like to kind of, if you will, prescribe audios for clients to listen to when they're not with me, that they can reinforce things. So I say for any issue, you need to heal the root of the problem. That's the work that I like to do in session. And that's the real heavy lifting stuff. And then you need to flood your subconscious mind with the opposite of the limiting belief that you have. So it could be, I'm not lovable. We want to flood your mind with the opposite of that. We want to heal the root cause of that problem and maybe some tangential issues that happened. And then we want you to be able to repeat that over time, even when you're not with me anymore. We want still kind of like a maintenance program. So I hope that makes sense regarding doing sessions online. Thanks for asking the question. Okay, Bob Galgansky, where can I find credible instructions for using a pendulum? Well, on my YouTube channel, BlueSky Hypnosis, you can just type in pendulum. And I have a video, it's about, I think it's like 9 minutes, and it teaches you how to use a pendulum. I think it's pretty concise. It's pretty clear. I've sent a lot of people there because a lot of people, as you can imagine, have questions like yours, which is, how do I use this thing? So I would definitely recommend going to my channel, BlueSky Hypnosis, and searching under pendulum, and then just watch that video. And after you watch that video, you should be equipped to use the pendulum. Thanks for asking the question. Valerie Nelson, can our subconscious affect the pendulum? Absolutely, definitely 100%. That's what we're after. We are looking, it's called an ideomotor tool. And what it essentially does is it bypasses your conscious mind. And the answers are effectively coming from your subconscious mind. So not only can it affect the pendulum, it's creating the motions of the pendulum, which is exactly what we want. We want to know what's your subconscious is thinking. We know what your conscious mind is thinking, right? What we don't know is where your subconscious is. And so your subconscious controls your autonomic nervous system. That just means your automatic functions of your body, like, breathing and your immune system and your pulse rate and your endocrine system and so forth. And the subconscious creates through the autonomic nervous system micro movements that funnel all the way through your arm and into your hands and fingers, which then affects the motion of the pendulum. Now, these micro motions are so small that you can't feel them and you can't usually even see them. But because of the nature of the pendulum, those micro motions express themselves as a larger motion when the pendulum moves. And so we can then use this as a tool. It's almost like a diagnostic tool to assess what's going on in your subconscious mind. So you're 100% right that the subconscious affects the pendulum, and what we want it to do is really discern or understand what's going on in the subconscious. All righty. Yeah, Nicole is telling Bob, good video on it, short, just walks you right through it. Here is JW. JW Fat. Are dreams a way of your subconscious trying to tell you something? And if so, how can you interpret the dream? I love this question, JW. I have to give you a round of applause for this. So, yes, dreams are a way of your subconscious mind communicating with you. But it's not using the kind of language that you and I are using right now that appeals to our rational, conscious brain. It's speaking to you either, and this is my opinion now, either in the form of something that actually happened, or your subconscious mind's interpretation of what happened, and that could be earlier in your life, it could be a past life, or, and I think this is much more common, it's speaking to you in terms of metaphor. So, how can you interpret what's going on? Well, one of the ways that is the clearest is to, like if an animal is presented in the dream, like there's an eagle, or just in the last few weeks, because I always talk to clients about their dreams. I've had clients tell me one had a dream about a sloth, another one had a dream about a rat. And what I will do is just go right on to the internet and type in spiritual meaning of sloth, spiritual meaning of rat, and just quickly read through sort of the top hits on what the spiritual meaning is of these different animals. And what is absolutely remarkable is that it almost always perfectly aligns with what this person is working through in their life, what they're struggling with in their life. So that's one really common way that I help people look, sort of analyze their dreams. The other way I help people analyze their dreams is based upon back to metaphor and patterns. So, if a person is like, oh, I was standing next to a 20-foot tall man and I was in a prison cell, and, I would be looking at that almost artistically, metaphorically, and trying to see if that fits into the larger part of their life, the larger aspects of their life. The other thing you can do is you can use the pendulum and say, hey, is that dream I had last night, was that sending me an important message? If you get a yes, you could say, was the message biographical, or was it autobiographical, or was it metaphorical? If it was metaphorical, you could say, okay, does the prison cell refer to me feeling trapped at work? Does it refer to me feeling trapped in a relationship? Does it refer to me feeling trapped because I'm not in a relationship? Does it refer to me, you see what I mean? Is where I'm going with this. The next step is you can meet with your spirit guide and then ask the guide, hey, how come I had that dream last night? Was it trying to tell me something? And the guide might just tell you exactly why you had the dream. So yes, I think dreams are absolutely 100% communication from the subconscious mind, and of vital importance. And again, like I was saying before with imagination, it's only your imagination. People say, it's just a dream. push it away. It doesn't mean anything. Well, no. These are kernels of wisdom that are coming to you from the spirit world, from your higher self, from your subconscious mind. And no, don't just push it away because it doesn't make sense to your conscious, logical, rational mind. It has probably a metaphorical meaning. So thank you for asking that question, because it really opened up a cool aspect of this conversation. Let's see. Tommy T says, can we go back in time to affect the family's past choices to change the effect of the ancestral trauma with the hopes to change the effect I'm feeling right now? So you're asking if we can change a timeline, basically. So if somebody committed suicide in a past lifetime, and that has created ancestral trauma that's passed through the DNA or the genetic line right through to you, can we go back in time and prevent them from killing themselves? The first thing I would say is, in general, that's not what I'm looking to do. The way I would heal that ancestral trauma is go back in time, understand why they killed themselves in this hypothetical example, and then bring that ancestor forward into the neutral sacred space that we create with your spirit guide, and then help them heal from the pain of what they did to themselves. Because if you think about it, it's not, I know I'm getting really splitting a hair maybe, but it's not actually the physical act that creates all the trauma. It's the pain that's associated with it. And if you can remove the pain, if you can heal or neutralize the pain, then what's passing through from the ancestors is not something dark and heavy and painful. It's something else entirely. So that's how I look at doing things like that. There are some instances where I will want to redo something in the past. But in general, the most important thing from my perspective is to heal the pain that was associated with it. So hopefully that answers your question, and thank you for asking. Before we move on, I want to take a couple more questions, but before we move on to that, I want to give a little pitch for what we're doing next Friday on the live. And where is that? That's over here. So we're going to be doing something, I'm calling it Unmasking the Imposter Syndrome. So on my list of things to do on the lives, somebody actually mentioned this quite a while ago to me. Can you do something on the imposter syndrome? And I thought, well, everybody's walking around wearing a mask, so it's kind of a little play on those words. But we're going to be talking about if you've ever suffered from this, if you've ever been in a job or in a relationship or in a sporting team or in some environment where you felt like, oh my God, I feel like I don't really belong here. I feel like I'm faking it. I feel like people are going to figure out that I'm not qualified, that I don't belong in this role. Then this might be a really good live for you to tune into. I was just talking to a person that's going to be a client soon. They're in a very high corporate position. And despite this really, really high corporate position in a really, really big corporation with a lot of responsibility, this person with a ton of experience feels like an imposter, feels like they don't belong, like they're going to get figured out. So this kind of finds its way all through the culture. I have been in positions in my life where I felt like this, and we're going to be diving deep into that. So if this is of interest to you, I hope you will consider joining us next Friday live, 5 Eastern US, and let's see what else we have here for a couple more questions. Okay. Okay, so here is Cheryl's reviews. I've been using the BlueSky weight loss 8-hour night sleep hypnosis for over 2 months. It hasn't been working. Okay, Cheryl. So I would love to know more about this. I would love to know if this means I'm going to assume it means you haven't lost any weight at all. It hasn't affected your eating habits. It hasn't affected your exercising habits. You haven't been sleeping any better than you were sleeping before. You're not calmer during the day. None of those things. Just absolutely nothing. It's exactly the way it was 2 months ago. So I'm going to assume that, but that may not be correct, but I'm going to assume that. So a couple of things I would say to you. One is I would definitely add in a short audible booster, weight loss booster during the day to augment what you're doing at night. Sometimes when people add in that second piece, and I'm just talking about like a 20-minute track, the one I would suggest is I have one called, it's a dual track. Again, it's kind of like the exercise one where different suggestions for weight loss going into your right ear, then go into your left ear at about the 9-minute mark. Wear headphones because it's got binaural tones on it. Don't try to drive or anything. Just sit down in a chair or be resting. Just check out for 20 minutes. Add that in. Do that for a month in addition to what you're doing at night. See if that helps. If this isn't working, then your subconscious mind has a block to losing weight. It perceives that if you lose weight, something negative will happen to you. That's where you might want to dive into the pendulum and just ask the pendulum, do I have a subconscious block preventing me from losing weight? If the answer is yes, is it based upon a trauma that I suffered in the past? If the answer is yes, you'd want to know, is it earlier in this life? Is it in a past lifetime? But in general, when a person is not having any success at all, and they're listening to both the one at night, and I've got a variety of those that you can choose from, and they're listening to the booster during the day, then what I am suggesting is that the subconscious mind is resisting that. It doesn't want you to change because it thinks by letting go of the weight, could be treating the weight like armor, that you will be vulnerable in some way. So hopefully those different suggestions help you, and I would love it, love it, love it if you would come back here and let us know if anything that I suggested actually helps you break through. And I can see that Claudia Angel is saying that she has a hard time losing weight as well. So Claudia, a lot of content on this channel that can help you, and hopefully some of the things that I've been suggesting to Cheryl's reviews will help you as well. Okay. Hello, Waffle Queen. Tara VM. Hello, Tara. Haven't seen you in a while. Glad you're back. Looks like you got a new picture of yourself. Looks very nice. Hello, so nice to be back. Peter, I have not so related question. Hope that's okay. I absolutely loved your top 2 spiritual movie suggestions that you covered. Please tell us if you have anything else on your list. So, Tara, I'm assuming that you mean other spiritual film analyses is what I'm calling them. Yeah, I've been compiling a list of different movies that I want to do. I've got about, I think, 8 movies written down on my list, and I will be definitely doing some spiritual film analyses of those films that I've written down on the list. The ones I've done so far is It's a Wonderful Life, which was directed by Frank Capra. It's from like 1946, I think, 1947, somewhere in there, starring Jimmy Stewart. And then we also did Somewhere in Time. That's Christopher Reeve and Jane Seymour. And then I'm really excited about the 6, 7, 8 films that I've got written down on my to-do list. If you have some suggestions of films that you would like to see analyzed and reviewed on this channel, please submit them to me. Anybody else as well, and I'll definitely take those in for consideration. I love when people make suggestions. So good to see you, Tara. All right, we'll take 1 or 2 more. Okay, here is, I hope I pronounce your name correctly. Anamete Hein. I'm going to go with that. Hopefully that's right. Hi, does that track, which music you were speaking about, function with studying for exams? Greetings from Germany. So I have a track specifically for studying for exams. Just go on my YouTube channel, BlueSky Hypnosis, subscribe if you haven't, and look for, just search under study or studying or exams. And I think I have 2 of them. One is a subliminal and one is like a virtual hypnosis session where you go into hypnosis and it just guides you through the process of priming your mind to be more effective at taking exams. And quite a few people have written in and said it really, really worked for them. So hopefully those two tracks will work for you. One of them is a subliminal one that you listen to while you're sleeping, and then the other one is one that you would, it's almost as if, you know, you and I are in the room together and you're just sitting down in a chair, headphones on, press play. So let us know if that works for you. I just want to make sure that I got to everything I wanted to talk about. Pendulum, intersection. Yeah, we got to all of that. Let's see what else we have here for questions. Let's see, here's Maria Smith. Welcome, Maria. Haven't seen you before. Glad you're here. I really like your dual hypnosis sessions where I hear 2 suggestions simultaneously. Can you develop some extremely powerful sessions, subliminal or otherwise? Okay, well, Maria, thank you. I'm glad you like those. Please let me know what you mean by extremely powerful sessions. I would love to hear what you have in mind with respect to that. So, you know, in the next couple of minutes, if you can just type in what you're thinking, or if you want to send me an email through my BlueSkyHypnosis.com website, you could do that as well. But I'd love to hear what you mean by extremely powerful sessions. You know, just fill in some detail there so I understand what you mean. Okay, thanks for that. Empress Air and Fire. Hello, Empress. Good to have you here. Healing Karmic Relationships. That sounds great. Yeah, that's a track that's on there. It's fairly recent. I think that one can be super powerful. Let's see. So Monica Avalos says, could I grow immune to hypnosis if I do it a lot or something like that? No. Hypnosis is a natural state for you to be in. It's like, could you grow immune to relaxation if you relax a lot? No worries with that. And there is a function of hypnosis that a lot of the effectiveness of hypnosis, especially conventional hypnosis, is built around repetition. This is why with advertising, television advertising, they say repetition equals reputation. That the more times someone sees an ad for something, the more likely they are to take action on it. Not the first time, not the second time, not the 5th time, not the 8th time, not the 20th time. Somewhere along the way, if they see it enough, they're more likely to take action on it. So advertisers know they have to keep putting the same message in front of you over and over again because in a way, it's hypnotic. Okay. So here's Nicole. Nicole is saying, I had done a PLR, past life regression, through your video, Peter, and it wasn't just real during it. It completely connected to my present life. It even shocked my mother and my husband. I physically experienced the emotion. Yes, yes. That's what happens with past life regression. And honestly, this is what is so powerful to me about doing that work. And I've been in the chair too. I've had my own share of past life experiences, and the emotion, I know exactly what you're talking about. It can't be just manufactured, right? You can't just see, oh, there's this little girl in a little dress, you know, from 150 years ago, and as soon as I see her, boom, I explode in tears. How is that possible? If I don't know the story around this girl consciously, I've never seen her in my life consciously, and yet when I encounter her in a past life regression, I explode into tears. Right? Amazing. Absolutely amazing. And it's hard to describe if you haven't had the experience, but clearly you have. And to me, this is like one of the most compelling parts about doing hypnosis. I can't imagine what I just described to you about the little girl in the cute little dress and exploding into tears without knowing the backstory, without ever having seen her consciously in this lifetime. Why would I have that experience? And as I go through the regression, I find out I was her father and maybe she died or something like that, or I died. Well, it's absolutely astonishing. And again, it still kind of gives me goosebumps, and I don't think I can ever grow weary of that. So thanks for adding that in. Let's see. Here's Barbershopper Doll. Glad you're with us today, Barbershopper Doll. When you have dreams showing parts of your past life, do you think it's your subconscious telling you it's time to heal, or your guides helping you get more comfortable with it? I guess between those two, I would say it's time. You know, anytime we put a message in front of somebody, whether it's a billboard or we send them a text, or whether the fire department sends you something over your pager, or there's a traffic signal, it's more or less trying to tell you it's time to take action on this thing. So that's what I think it is. I've never really considered, to be honest with you, whether it's your guides trying to get you comfortable with it. But I do think, you know, now that you mention that is absolutely one of the functions. You know, as I was describing before about fire department training, you know, the more times you put on the turnout gear, the more times you put on and breathe out of an air pack, the more times you go into the smokehouse, the more times you operate equipment on the apparatus, the more comfortable you get with it. So that when you're really confronted with, you know, this crazy scene of a building on fire and people jumping out of windows, you are more likely to perform as you want to perform and not be overwhelmed by it. So yeah, I think that's a really, really good point. Applause is absolutely required. I never really thought about that before, but yeah, kudos to you. Okay. Oh, this is so sweet. Nicole, I don't shut up. I'm obsessed with your teaching. You have helped me so much in so little time. With my PLR, past life regression, it definitely made me emotionally lighter, answered so many questions. Well, congratulations to you. That is fantastic. That's exactly what we want to do. You know, we want more people to be able to heal the crap, the collective crap from our past, so that you can, the way I think about it is that everyone has like this magnificence inside of them. Everyone has their own unique gift to bring to this world. And Lord knows we need more people like you unloading their garbage and their heavy weight from the past so that you can express that magnificence and bring your gifts to the world. We need it. We need you. All hands on deck. Thanks for that. Here, Phil Smith. Phil, welcome. Looks like I don't recognize your name from before, so glad you're here. I have been an escape artist forever. Alcohol, drugs, sex, relationships, childhood sexual abuse, domestic violence, and neglect most likely caused my soul sickness. What do you think? I think you're well on your way to healing it. You already know you're an escape artist. You already know that you're using these substances and these activities as a way, I'm just going to turn this light on, as a way of, that's too bright, isn't it? As a way of escaping from the pain of your past. You already know that, which is a big step actually forward. The next step is to heal the past. And you know, the work that I do one-on-one with people, the tracks that I have on my YouTube channel are largely, not exclusively on the tracks, designed to help people heal their past. So with you, I would want to know, and we would use a pendulum and we would talk to your guide. We would want to know what came before. That's the first thing I would want to know. What came before you were born? Are you balancing any karma in this lifetime? Did you incur karma in a past lifetime that you're attempting to balance now? What choices did you make before you were born? Did you choose your mother to be your mother or your father to be your father? Did you know that you were going to experience any of these traumas? If the answer to any of those questions is yes, and I don't know right now if it would be yes, but if it is yes, we would then want to know why. Why did your soul make these choices? And then we would want to go back in time and we would want to rescue your younger self, the one that suffered these traumas. Because in the words of this famous psychologist named Gabor Mate, when a trauma occurs, a fracture is created in the mind. And by going back in time and healing this younger and wounded part of you, either earlier in this life or in a past life or both, we're in essence healing that fracture. And we're telling the subconscious mind that no longer is a danger to you. You're no longer, a small child. You're now an adult. Those people aren't in your life anymore. You can now protect yourself. And so the subconscious mind, because the old wound is healed, it can stand down. You're not going to let go of the crutches, the alcohol and the sex and the other things you mentioned, until your leg is healed. You need the crutch. I'm not telling you to do these things or not do them, but I'm just making this metaphor that when your leg is broken, you need something to manage that broken leg. And the solution isn't to say that the crutches are horrible and you're a bad person. The solution is to help your leg heal. Because when your leg's healed, you don't need the crutches anymore. Then those things actually have no meaning. You can let them go. So thanks for making that comment. I'm going to take one more question. I just love doing this so much. I say, oh yeah, 2 more questions, and he ends up doing 7 or 8. Okay. Let's see here. I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom because I don't want to miss people that might have asked something here. Oh, here's Maria. She actually came back and clarified what she meant about powerful. So weight loss, positive thinking, healing. I find that the more powerful, the better. I suppose that means dual tracks, something that hits me to the core. Okay, so dual tracks, absolutely. That's part of the repertoire of what I build, of what I make. And I try to spread things all around, because what really hits one person like you may not affect somebody else at all, or they may be irritated by it. And then the next person likes something else entirely. So I really have tried to keep making a wide variety of content, but for sure, more dual tracks in the future, because I do think that they work well. Okay, here maybe I can stay true to my words here on this one, last one. Happy Saggy. Ha! In regards to weight loss and feeling that it is due to fear of being vulnerable, I recently spoke to my area of concern on my body and thanked it and gave it permission to melt away. Good for you. I mean, I frequently use a concept in the work called parts therapy. This is also from neurolinguistic programming. And the concept is that you and I are made of different parts. We even have this in our language. We say, part of me likes this person, part of me doesn't trust that person, part of me wants to go over there, part of me doesn't want to go over there. So we often will do exactly what you're talking about, which is speaking to the part that is, in quotes, creating the problem, and asking the part what it needs in order to feel better. And what I was taught is that it may tell you it needs peace. Great. So we then want to give that part peace. Once it has peace, we then say to it, now that you have peace, what do you want that's even more important that you can experience through having the experience of peace? And then it might say, oh, I want love. Okay, give it love. And then ask, now that you have love, is there anything that you want that's even more important? No, this is good. I'm all good. Okay, now that you have love, now that you have peace and love, are you willing to stand down and not create that thing you were creating before that was causing problems? And the part's usually willing to say yes, and oftentimes that issue will actually vanish, go away, get better, etc., etc. So that's called parts therapy. So thank you everyone for asking your questions, for making your comments. Thank you for showing up. Love to have you here. Really do. Really, really love it. Congratulations to those of you who have had some real successes. As I've said before, sharing your successes in a forum like this can inspire other people. Where one person can have success, another person can have the same kind of success. And it's not just with the people who are on the live, but a lot of people watch these broadcasts later because they remain on my channel in terms of permanent content. So thank you for sharing all of that. I hope you guys will consider coming next Friday, live at 5 Eastern US, for Unmasking the Imposter Syndrome. And until then, have a great weekend and see you next week. Goodbye and God bless.